You have been praying for months, maybe years. You have fasted. You have believed. You have stood on the promises. You have done everything right. And nothing has moved. No breakthrough. No open door. No sign. Just silence. And in that silence, a question has been growing louder than any prayer you have ever prayed. Does God even hear me? If you have ever laid in bed at 3 in the morning, wondering if your prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling, you are not alone. You are not weak. You are not faithless. You are standing in one of the most dangerous places a believer can stand. The place where silence feels like abandonment, where waiting feels like being forgotten, where faith starts to crack not because of what happened, but because of what did not. But here's what nobody told you. God's silence is not his absence. It is his strategy. And by the time this message is over, you're going to see exactly what God is doing in the silence that you have been calling a delay. You're going to understand why he has not answered the way you expected. And you're going to realize that what felt like being forgotten was actually the most intentional thing he has ever done in your life. Before we go in, do me a favor. Type this in the comments right now, word for word. God is working even when I cannot feel it. Just those 7 words. Write them now, because that is going to be your anchor every time doubt tries to drag you under. And while you are there, hit that like button and subscribe, because by the end of this video, silence is never going to feel the same again. Let's start with the thing most people are too afraid to say out loud. Part 1. You think God forgot you. He did not. He is building something. Let's be honest about what is really going on inside you right now. It is not just frustration. It is something deeper than that. It is the terrifying thought that maybe God made a promise he is not going to keep. Maybe the blessing he put in your heart was never actually from him. Maybe you misheard. Maybe you're not who you thought you were to him. Because if he really saw you, if he really loved you, if he was really all-powerful, why is the door still closed? Why is the situation still the same? Why does it feel like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck in place? I know that thought, and I also know this. That thought is a lie dressed up in logic. Look at Joseph, 17 years old. God gave him a dream so clear, so specific, so undeniable that even his own family recognized it as something divine. A dream that said he would rise to leadership, that his brothers would bow before him, that his life was destined for something great. And then what happened? His brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. He ended up in Egypt, a foreign country, no family, no rights, no name. Then just when things started to improve, Potiphar's wife lied about him, and he got thrown in prison. Years went by. He interpreted a dream for a man who promised to remember him, and forgot him completely. From the outside, it looked like God's promise died in that pit. But here's what nobody saw. Every single painful detour was a deliberate setup. The pit built his humility. The slavery built his character. The prison built his patience. And the forgotten promise built a faith that no comfort ever could have produced. God was not ignoring Joseph. He was constructing him. The same thing is happening to you right now. The silence you are in is not a dead end. It is a construction zone. God is not building your blessing yet. He is building you. Because what he is about to put in your hands requires a version of you that does not exist yet. Ask yourself right now, what is this season building in you that could not have been built any other way? Part 2. God's silence is not rejection. It is protection. Here is something that is going to shift how you see everything. Sometimes God does not answer your prayer because what you are asking for would destroy you if he gave it to you right now. That is not punishment. That is fatherhood. Think about a child asking their parent for a car at age 9. The parent loves that child more than anything. The parent has every resource to give that child a car. But the parent says no, not because they do not love the child, but because they love the child too much to give them something they're not ready to handle. You're not 9 years old spiritually, but there are gifts, platforms, relationships, and breakthroughs that God is withholding. Not because he is cruel, but because the version of you asking for them right now would be crushed by the weight of receiving them. David was anointed king at a young age by the prophet Samuel himself. God chose him. God called him. God sealed his destiny. And then David spent years running for his life from the very king he was supposed to replace. hiding in caves, eating scraps, commanding a ragtag band of broken men. He had every right to be bitter. He had every reason to question the anointing. But what was happening in those caves? God was making a king, not just a man with a crown, a king with a heart. A king who had been through enough to lead with mercy instead of pride. A king who had been humbled enough not to be destroyed by power when power finally came. The cave was not God abandoning David. The cave was God protecting David from becoming a version of Saul. So here's the question I need you to sit with. What if the answer you've been waiting for is being delayed, not because God forgot, but because he is protecting you from yourself? Part 3. The waiting room is not wasted time. It is where God does his best work. You think waiting means nothing is happening. You are wrong. Waiting is the most active thing God does in a human life. Isaiah 40 verse 31 says it like this: "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Read that again. Renewing strength does not happen during the sprint. It happens during the wait. The eagle does not mount up by flapping harder. It mounts up by catching the wind and letting it do the lifting. But to catch that wind, it first has to be still. It has to stop fighting and start trusting the current it cannot see. That is your waiting room right now. God is not asking you to figure out. He is asking you to stop flapping and start trusting the wind you cannot see yet. But let me get real with you for a second. The waiting room is where most people quit. Not in the middle of the storm. Not when things get hard at the beginning. They quit in the waiting room. Because the waiting room feels like nothing is happening. And nothing is one of the hardest things a human being can endure. Think about Abraham. God promised him a son when he was already old. Years passed. His body got older. His wife's womb was long past the natural possibility of pregnancy. And every single year that went by was another year that made the promise look more impossible. But Romans 4 says this about Abraham: "Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed." Against all hope. That means every natural indicator said it was over. Every logical conclusion said give up. Every year of silence was another argument for walking away from the promise. And Abraham believed anyway. And in the fullness of time, not a day early, not a day late, Isaac was born. Not because Abraham figured it out. Not because he found a way to make it happen, but because God's timing is not tied to human logic. Your breakthrough is not late. You're not behind. God does not run on your calendar. He runs on his covenant. If you're still waiting right now, drop that comment one more time. God is working even when I cannot feel it. Write it again. Let's sink into your bones. Part 4. When God is silent, the enemy gets loud. Here's how to fight back. Here is something the enemy knows that you keep forgetting. The most dangerous moment in your faith is not when everything falls apart. It is the silence between the falling apart and the breakthrough. That is when he moves in. Because when everything is falling apart, you know to pray. You know to cry out. You know to reach for God. But in the silence, that is when the whispers start. Maybe you were never called. Maybe that dream was just your own imagination. Maybe God is real, but he just does not care about you specifically. Maybe it is time to stop believing and start being realistic. Those are not your thoughts. That is a war. And 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 tells you exactly what to do with them. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Take it captive. That is military language. You do not negotiate with a lie. You do not reason with it. You arrest it. You put it in chains, and you replace it with truth. Every time the enemy whispers that God forgot you, you declare out loud, God is working even when I cannot feel it. Every time doubt says the promise is dead, you remind yourself, Joseph's promise looked dead in a pit and rose to a palace. Every time silence feels like abandonment, you remember Jesus was silent in the tomb for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, the silence exploded into the greatest resurrection the world has ever seen. The silence before your breakthrough is not the enemy winning. It is the pressure building for what is about to be released. Do not quit in the dark what God told you in the light. Part 5. What God is actually saying in the silence. Most people think God is silent when he stops talking. But here is the truth. God is never more present than when his voice gets quiet. Elijah had just called down fire from heaven. He had just executed 450 false prophets. He had just witnessed one of the greatest miracles in the entire Old Testament. And then Jezebel threatened his life, and he ran into the wilderness, sat under a tree, and said, "I have had enough. Lord, take my life." He was done, burned out, broken, believing that God was finished with him. And what did God do? He did not send another miracle. He did not send fire. He did not send a dramatic sign. He let Elijah sleep. He sent an angel to feed him. He gave him water. And then in 1 Kings 19, God came to him, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still small voice. A gentle whisper. God came in the quiet. Because sometimes the only way God can get through to you is by turning down everything else until all you can hear is him. The busyness of answered prayers can make you forget who answered them. The noise of blessing can drown out the voice of the one who blessed you. And sometimes God loves you too much to let you run on autopilot. So he gets quiet, not to punish you, not to abandon you, but to get your full attention. And when Elijah finally heard that whisper, God did not scold him for running. He did not shame him for his fear. He asked one question, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And then he gave him new instructions, a new assignment, a new direction. That is what God is doing in your silence right now. He is not punishing you. He is not ignoring you. He is recalibrating you. He is whispering something that the noise in normal season would have drowned out completely. Get still enough to hear it. Part 6. The breakthrough is closer than you think. Here's why. Let me tell you something about how God works that nobody warns you about. The darkest moment almost always comes right before the dawn. It is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. God allows the pressure to build to its absolute maximum right before he releases the breakthrough, because the contrast of the darkness makes the light undeniable. Think about the Red Sea. The Israelites had just left Egypt. Freedom was in the air. The impossible had happened. And then they looked up and saw Pharaoh's army bearing down on them, and the sea in front of them with nowhere to go. That was not God losing control of the situation. That was God staging the most dramatic rescue in the history of Israel. Because if there had been a bridge, they would have walked across it and given themselves the credit. But there was no bridge. There was no boat. There was no way out. So when the sea split, nobody questioned who did it. God waited until the situation was completely and utterly impossible, and then he moved. Because his power is most visible in the places where human solutions have completely run out. Is that where you are right now? Out of solutions? Out of options? Out of explanations? Good, because that is exactly the kind of address God tends to show up at. The end of your ability is the beginning of his. Part 7. You are not waiting for God. God is waiting for you. This one's going to land hard. Stay with me. What if you are not waiting for God to move, and God is waiting for you to fully surrender? Because here is what most people do in the waiting room. They hold on to 90% of their life and ask God to bless the 10% they bring him. They surrender most of their heart and keep a corner for themselves. They trust God with the big things and hold tightly to the one thing they're most afraid to let go of. And God in his love refuses to move halfway. He is not interested in partial surrender. He is not impressed by conditional faith. He does not do business with the version of you that wants him as a backup plan. He wants all of it, all of you, every corner, every secret, every plan you have been protecting from him. Proverbs 3 verse 5 and 6 says this: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." All your heart, all your ways, not most, not majority, all. The moment you lay down the thing you've been holding back, that one relationship, that one plan, that one version of how you think this story should go, that is often the moment the door swings open. Because God is not withholding the blessing because he is testing your patience. He is waiting for the full surrender that makes you ready to carry it. Where are you still holding that God has been asking you to release? Part 8. What is waiting for you on the other side of this? Let me spoil the ending for you. Your story does not end in this waiting room. It does not end in this season of silence. It does not end with unanswered prayer and a closed door. It ends in the fullness of everything God promised. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 has been quoted so many times it has almost lost its power. But hear it again as if it were written to you today. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. God knows the plans, not guesses, not possibilities. Plans, specific, intentional, already decided plans for your life that have not been canceled by the silence, have not been revised because of your struggle, have not been delayed because of your doubt. They are intact. They are in motion. They are coming. And when you look back at this season from the other side of the breakthrough, you're going to see something that will take your breath away. You're going to see every single moment of silence was preparing you for a level of blessing you could not have handled without it. Every closed door protected you from something that would have destroyed you. Every delay built something in you that the shortcut would have skipped entirely. You're going to look back and say, I thought God forgot me, but he was writing the best chapter of my life. Hold the line. Stay in faith. Keep praying. Keep showing up. Keep trusting the architect who sees the finished building while you're still standing in the rubble of construction. Because what he started in you, he will complete. Philippians 1 verse 6. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Not might complete. Not will try to complete. Will complete. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not losing. You're being built. Let me bring this home. Yes, there are seasons where God feels silent, where prayers seem unanswered, where the promise looks dead and the door stays shut and everything inside you wants to give up. But here's what you need to burn into your soul right now. The silence is not the story. It is the setup. God is not scrambling to figure out what to do with your life. He is not panicking because your timeline is running out. He is not confused by the mess you're standing in. He sees the end from the beginning. He sees the Joseph in the pit who is about to run Egypt. He sees the David in the cave who is about to rule a kingdom. He sees the empty tomb that 3 days of silence could not keep shut. And he sees you, right now, in exactly the place you are in. Tired, waiting, maybe questioning, and still here, still watching, still seeking, still holding on. That is not weak faith. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Every time doubt creeps back in, every time the silence gets loud, every time you wonder if faithfulness is worth it, go back to those words you wrote in the comments. God is working even when I cannot feel it. Because he is. He always has been. And what he is building in this silence is going to be worth every single second of the wait. Hold the line. The breakthrough is coming. And when it does, when it finally breaks open, you're going to understand every moment of this season in a way that will make you fall to your knees and worship. Well done, good and faithful servant. Those words are coming. Keep going until you hear them. If this message met you exactly where you needed it, do not walk away alone. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. This channel exists for moments exactly like the one you are in, when faith is being tested, when silence feels unbearable, when you need truth that does not sugarcoat reality, but points you straight to the heart of God. Every video is built to give you the biblical clarity and spiritual strength you're searching for. Subscribe, stay connected, and watch the next video, because God has more to say to you today, and you're going to need it for what is coming next.